It's recording.
Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Let's call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, September 7th, 2023. This is the first Land Use Committee meeting since our recess. And as the Land Use Chair, my name is Kwame Fred, and I call this meeting to order. I don't believe we have enough to actually approve the meeting minutes at this time, so we're going to forego that. Plus, we have a lot of new committee members, which I don't think that we'll be able to achieve quorum, but if we do at some point at the end of today's business, we'll make sure to circle back to actually completing the meeting minutes. I'm gonna roll into the chairperson's report. Just a gathering of what happened during summer events. Just bear with me and we'll get through it in an on-top presentation. Before I start, has everybody in the committee received the link with all of the necessary and pertinent information for the 3002 Farragut Road application that we were discussing tonight?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. On to the-
I haven't had time to read it all because I just got it yesterday.
All right, no problem. So let me get started. Welcome back, Land Use Committee, to us from our summer recess. So we had a rejuvenating break. We're ready to dive back into our important work. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our new committee members whose fresh perspectives and insights would undoubtedly enrich our discussions and decisions. Let me just mute everybody. Hey. People. Before we get into today's agenda, I'd like to highlight a specific event we hosted on July 14th. It was our state planning event. I want to say it was a success. The turnout was a little low, but ultimately the information was greatly appreciated by the people who attended. We received an abundance of positive feedback, and it speaks to our dedication and commitment to providing valuable resources to our community. I also like to inform the community, the committee of a personnel change. Ms. Gordon, our assistant ADM for last year, is no longer part of Community Board 17. So if you were in fact giving any communications, emailing Ms. Gordon pertaining to any business relating to Community Board 17, I would cease doing so. We extend our gratitude for our contributions and wish her success in her future endeavors.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Ms. Gordon, our ADM, is no longer a part of Community Board 17.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're working actively to fill that vacancy and, ensure the continuing of our operations. And as that progresses, everybody will be notified. Looking ahead, I encourage every one of you to share topics you'd like to cover during this year. Our committee's strength lies in our collective knowledge and diverse viewpoints. And as always, feel free to voice your ideas and concerns as we progress through this calendar year. In addition, I'd like to share an update on the Recreation Center project. The ground has been broken and excavation work has begun, but it's slow starting. We haven't really gotten much communication from them, but as the communications come in, as I get updated or as the board gets updated, I'll make sure that that information passes along to you. In closing, let's remember that our mission's work is to work collaboratively for the betterment of our community. I'm confident that our dedication and shared commitment will address any challenges we come forward to see during this year. And I thank you all for being here today. I welcome you to a welcome back from a summer's recess. Do we have any questions regarding the report? Thank you. Thank you for taking it easy on me. Moving along, Ms. Soledare, you want to take control?
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to try to share my presentation and hope that it works.
Thank you.
Adobe, here we go. Share we go. Okay. You can see it, right?
I can. I just ask that everyone just give the presenters the full respect that they have and query all your questions either in the chat or write them down. I'm sure there'll be a Q&A session. I just like for her to be able to at least get through it in one passing, and then we could follow back with any questions that we have.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm not showing my face again. I just want to make sure that it works. But yeah, thank you so much for having us. I actually have a whole team, and they can introduce themselves, but I'll first give an overview of what we're asking for your support today, just to make things simple. So we are asking for a variance to build a medical or ambulatory diagnostic treatment facility in an R6C13 zoning district. The proposal would support the relocation and expansion of 2 New York State DOH licensed healthcare facilities, a multi-specialty diagnostic and treatment center known as Be Well Health Primary Care Center, and an ambulatory surgery center known as Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center. So what we're asking for this variance is only one waiver, which is to waive parking spaces from 44 to 5 to permit the proposed 18,140 square foot, 6-story new state-of-the-art ambulatory diagnostic and treatment facility. So I would just like to point out something on this map. We're on Farragut Road and Nostrand Avenue. You can see across the street. They actually have already, and they're providing so much necessary healthcare for the community that they actually are looking to expand. So you can see the building across the street. It's going to be very similar in size to that building, but we are in a C1 district and they are in a C2 district. So that was an as of right building, but because of we're in a C1 district, that's why we have to ask you for this parking waiver, because there would be no way for us to be able to provide the adequate number of or the adequate space in the building to actually provide the service we provide if we were to put in parking. If we put in parking, we lose floors and floors in space. And then if we don't put on parking, we're limited in size to only a 3-story building. So I think that that building there really gives you an idea. It will be very comparable. Okay, here you go. So here's a little bit about, you can see where we're at and pictures of the building. You can see a lot of people come to our site. There's a bus stop right in the front. It serves the local community, and people don't really get there by car. We also had a parking study done just to show that, and make sure that it's accurate, that the 5 spaces will be enough to provide so people can use it. And we had great findings with our parking study. We did find that most people do not come except for a few doctors who come by car, and they can use those spaces. There you go. So here is, you can see how close the subways are. And I'd like to point out again, we're not asking for any bulk waivers, only parking. Here you can see similarly sized buildings, just to show you that it won't be totally out of character for the neighborhood. You can see that the zoning district is different on the other side where the site is. These maps will help during questions, I think, if you have questions. So there's a lot of them, but you can see here too, again, the uses on the street are very commercial. So it fits very well on Nostrand, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Here's more pictures. And then this is great. And I'm going to actually say one more thing about what we do. And then I'm actually going to let the people from the healthcare facilities introduce themselves and talk passionately, because I know they know a lot more about it than I do, because I'm the attorney. But you can see 79% of patients are from the surrounding 4 zip codes. And what makes this really special too is the Healthcare and Surgical Center both provide hands-on training to students in SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University, St. John's University, and New York Presbyterian Queens Hospital. And the clinical training will take place on all the floors of the proposed project. And in the top of the top floor, we'll have an educational program area that they will be able to do classes and learn what they've learned in this facility. So Anna, is that okay if I turn it to you to talk a little bit more about how many employees, what you do, and your team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Golden. I'm the administrator for Be Well Primary Healthcare Center and Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center. I have 2 phenomenal ladies who joined me tonight. Shirley Legros, who is right next to me. She is our office manager for Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center, and she's been with us for over 18 years now. We also have Tijuana White. Tijuana, I'm not sure, I don't see you here. Ah, there you are. Tijuana White is the office manager for Be Well Primary Healthcare Center, and she's been with us for over 15 years. So I would like to talk a little bit about Be Well and Gold Step, and so you have a better understanding of what we do and what we stand for. So Be Well Primary Healthcare Center is licensed by New York State Department of Health under Article 28 provision of New York State Public Health Law. What that means is basically we have the exact same license as any hospital in the city and the state. What's different is that we don't have an emergency room and we don't keep patients overnight. Other than that, the same sort of rules that applies to any hospital within the city and the state applies to us here. We've been an integral part of this community for over 27 years, providing vital services, healthcare services to the patients of this community. We are primarily serving Medicaid and Medicare, managed care, insured population. So we are providing vital healthcare services and ensuring positive health outcomes to the patients that oftentimes do not have access to high quality care elsewhere just because of the insurance that they have or different barriers to access to care. So they're not able to travel to the city. They choose not to cross Ocean Avenue, or simply language barriers. About 70% of our patients speak Haitian Creole, because we're in the heart of the Haitian Creole speaking community. So all of our staff, we have a significant number of doctors that speak the language and allow access to care to the patients that would struggle elsewhere. We are level 3 PCMH recognized facility. What that means is that we are licensed and accredited by the federal government to serve as a primary medical home for a lot of patients that are looking resources if they're trying to find behavioral health specialists, if they are struggling with their finances, if they need social workers. So we have the resources to help the members of the community. We are located in the areas that is designated by HRSA as the health shortage area. So we are contributing, we've been contributing for over 2 decades to the overall health outcomes of the members of this community. So the purpose and the goal of this community for many years has been to serve the most vulnerable patient populations. And unfortunately, since 2014, we haven't added space to the facility at all. And that precludes us from adding vital services that this community needs. For example, for a dermatologist appointment, if you call Kings County Hospital or SUNY Downstate that are within reach, you would have to wait 5 to 6 months to get an appointment with a dermatologist or ENT. You call Be Well Primary Healthcare Center, we can guarantee the appointment within the first week from the time that you called. So it is extremely, extremely important that, construction of a brand new facility directly across the street from this existing facility will accommodate an appropriate expansion of services with no patient inconvenience. The efficiency of services delivery will be improved while enhancing patient safety, and the proposed expansion will respond very well to the local demand for healthcare services. The second facility that we have here is Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center. It was opened and licensed by the Department of Health and the federal government in 2015. And once again, it serves the local communities. Majority of our patients come from 11210, 226, 11203, 11230, 11229, 11236, and 11234. So it's Flatbush, it's East Flatbush, it's Crown Heights, it's Canarsie, it's Midwood. So all the local communities, we have a tremendous impact. So in 2015, the Department of Health realized that with serving the most vulnerable patient populations, the ambulatory surgery center was really, really needed. Not a single hospital in the area was against it. Actually, we received support from Kings County, from several hospitals in the area that supported the ambulatory surgery center. However, the surgery center is very, very small. It has only 2 ORs and 4 pre-op and post-op beds. So the relocation project will result in considerable increase of the surgical floor space, ORs, pre-op and post-op beds, that in turn will significantly improve access to care and preventative life-saving screenings to patients in terms of convenience, cost savings, and quality of care. A lot of patients are very anxious when they have to go to the hospitals to get those procedures done. It's much more, it's easier, it's psychologically easier for the patients to get it done with the providers that they're familiar with, in a setting that they're familiar with. So the proposed relocation will not only respond to the local demand for the elective surgical and preventative screening service, but also will decrease patient psychological stress and apprehension of undergoing such procedures in a hospital setting. And especially during the COVID times, you know, hospitals, patients are very reluctant to go to the hospitals due to being afraid getting additional exposure to COVID. So we really, really hope that the community board will take all of these things into consideration and will assist us and help us in every way possible to continue to serve this community, to provide the services that the community needs, and to continue to ensure positive health outcomes for the thousands of patients that we've been serving for over 24 years now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, you already have questions, so we're ready to go whenever you are.
Thank you. All right, so in the ability, we're trying to keep order. I guess raising your hand will be the optimal thing to do, to be called upon to ask your question. Seeing that, I see Ms. Viglianti, you have your hand raised and you're acknowledged.
Thank you. So, just to clarify, you're relocating from where? Where are you now that you're relocating from?
Right now we are at 3007 Farragut Road. So it's a two-step process. One is to fully relocate Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center into that location. And the second step is to expand Be Well Primary Healthcare Center.
I think she wants to see, do you see, ma'am, do you see my map here?
Yeah, no, yeah, you can show me
It's-
them.
Oh, yeah, it's directly across the street.
From where you actually are now. So you're
Well,
going
no,
to.
they're
you're
across
going
the
to-
street already. We're trying to build a new building so they can have both buildings.
Right, so the new building is gonna be the larger building, or they're gonna both be the same size? Is that what you're saying?
They're approximately the same size, yeah, but they're in different zoning districts, so that's
Okay,
why.
and they're gonna be run by the same,
Yes,
okay, and the original building that had didn't need parking?
it also has a limited number, like 5 spots or just a few for doctors, and that works well for them.
Okay, and how many other locations, how many other facilities do you have in Brooklyn?
Right now we have no other
So
facilities.
this is this?
Just this building at the corner of Nostrand and Farragut Road.
Okay, and so do you have any other buildings in New York City, or this is just the only one?
No, this is the only one we have, and because we outgrew the space, we
Uh-huh.
are trying to accommodate our patients with the services that they need. We try to grow, we try to offer more services that the patients require, that the services that the patients would benefit from. And, you know, right now we're one-stop shop, you know, if you can say it this way, for an entire family. We provide all sorts of services from prenatal care to pediatrics to geriatrics, dental. We currently employ 38 providers in 22 different specialties, but we have reached our absolute maximum. So if we want to, in terms of space, so if we want to add additional primary care providers, if we want to increase office hours, we desperately need the space to accommodate the demand and to accommodate the growth of the services that the community needs.
Okay, and then I just have a couple of follow-ups. So you said you have 38 employees or 38 doctors? I didn't.
30, no, we have 38 providers.
Providers. How many
physicians.
employees do you have currently?
Currently, we have slightly over 100 employees.
And how many will you have when you open when you have both buildings running?
Well, the new facility, because majority of it would be for Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center. Right now in Gold Step, we have about 18 employees. The surgery center does not require that many employees. It's the nurses, the pre-op, post-op nurses. So we anticipate to be at about 130 when both buildings are up and running. I must say that 99% of our employees come directly from the community. Majority of our staff commutes, within a several block radius. We have some employees that live in Canarsie, some in East New York, but the majority of our employees come from directly from the community and from the neighboring zip codes.
Okay, I just have one more question and then I pass it on. I don't want to take up too much time. Did you say that if this is for Medicaid, and what do you accept insurance like regular? It's a regular medical.
Absolutely. I'll explain this to you. So basically, the purpose of Article 28 licensure is to service the underserved communities, people that are insured through Medicaid and Medicare programs. This is why the license is given. However, we accept every insurance that there is, commercial insurances, private insurances. However, it just happens so that about 85 to 90% of our patient base are insured through Medicaid and Medicare programs, and only 10% of our patients come with private insurances and commercial insurances.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Ms. Bennett? Ms. Bennett?
Really?
Uh,
Oh, there you go. Yes, what I want to say is I'm very familiar with that area. And parking is going to be extremely difficult right now. The medical center that is the facility on the opposite side of Farragut, and that
Can't hear.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I apologize.
no, I said I'm very familiar with that area
Mhm.
because I'm there quite frequently. And on the one side of Farragut, on the north side, Farragut and Nordstrom.
Ms. Bennett, could you speak into your microphone more clearly? You sound
Hold on,
muffled
hold on.
and we can't understand what you're saying. Yeah. All right, hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound a lot better.
Okay, thank you. Now I was going to say I'm extremely familiar with that area because I work in the area and I'm there quite often. Now, on the one side of where the medical facility is, that is there now, the staff there has to park on the sidewalk on both sides because there is no parking in that area at all. So I do not know how 5 spaces are going to suffice.
So I thank you. I appreciate the question. So with the current building that we have an area specifically reserved for ambulance. As I said, majority of our patients are insured through Medicaid and Medicare programs, so they're eligible for ambulance and transportation through the Medicaid programs. So majority of our patients, as Ms. Elise told earlier, spoke earlier, we have conducted a study, multiple studies during different periods of times, taking into consideration times of the day, the number of the doctors in the office. And we found, based on this study, that over 95% of our patients get to the office either through the Medicaid provided sponsored transportation by feet because they live in the vicinity of the facility, or by public transportation like bus B44 that stops right in front of the office. So
Yes.
we've never experienced with, our patients any issues with the parking. And that's why the parking study was conducted, to ensure that there are no issues for the patients.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I'm quite sure Mr. Freyes, I deal with that issue personally, and I'm telling you right now, and I'm letting all the members know, they know me very well. The parking there is tight. They even have to use the sidewalks because there's no room. None. That's how the parking is that bad around there. And if anyone wants to check it out for themselves, like I do on a daily basis when I'm working in that area, it's that bad. When the bus has to make that turn from Nostrand to Farragut, it's usually yes, there are ambulances, but that's not the issue. The issue is not that the ambulance is going to bring the patients to or from. The problem is, where are they going to park? And when it becomes a certain point after the bus stop, it becomes residential. When you're talking about inconveniencing the residents by adding, say, ambulance parking into the residential section, because you only have the corner on that side, and on the Nostrand side, you have no stopping. And then you have a library, and that's on the east south corner of Farragut and Nostrand. Like I said, I know it very well.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. So you've probably seen that building that we see, the gray building, has already been demolished. So it's not there. So the sidewalk currently is occupied by the construction
Yes, it is.
fence. So the
Yes.
building, the building is gone. And
Mhm.
once again, the bus stop, and there is the area in front, behind the bus stop where the blue awning is. This is where we would like to have the, or on the other side on Nostrand Avenue, to have the ambulance
Portal.
stop. We do not anticipate to go into any residential spaces or parking that is already
Mhm. Mhm.
that is not the goal that we have.
And is there any way that they can do, say, maybe above ground or underground parking? Well, I mean, I'm not talking about the ambulance. I'm talking about for the staff. This would free up a little bit more above ground space.
Right. So as I said, the what we pride ourselves in is hiring our staff from the community. So majority of our staff also lives within the vicinity, or they use public transportation. As I said, we have conducted the public parking study not only with our patients but with our staff as well. And the results of that study can be provided, Ms. Elise.
They should have it, but I'm more than happy after this meeting to send a full package of the submission to the Board of
Yes,
Finance.
I'd appreciate that because I work in the transportation industry. So like I said, that area I'm very familiar with.
So, but I just want to point out a very crucial point that we did not, address. So for the surgery procedures, right? The patients cannot drive themselves. Every surgery
Of course not.
procedure, right, involves anesthesia. So patients are
Yes.
dropped off and picked up by their relatives, whoever, escort that is bringing them, taking them. So the parking is not, it's not where the patients are driving themselves, for a surgery or taking themselves back after the surgery. Usually they're
Excellent.
dropped off in the morning and then picked up in the afternoon.
And I would also just like to point out, as part of this process, I don't have the response yet because it is a city agency, but the Board of Standards and Appeals sends everything to DOT, who does their own review, and we do not get a grant until they sign off.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Yeah, I would love to see that review. Thank you.
I believe it's in the package that you received. I'm not sure on which file it is, but I think.
But I can, if it works for you, we can send to the community board tomorrow a full package again, and we can separate out the traffic study.
That would be appreciated.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. James, you're acknowledged.
Thank you. Good evening. You indicated this is an Article 28 facility, right?
Yes, it is. Both facilities are Article 28.
And as such, it's a for-profit enterprise,
Yes, it is.
right? It just so happens, I used to be a CPA from Article 28. And so I'm very, very familiar, very knowledgeable about the millions of dollars that the owners of an Article 28 facility make. I was actually online to see what your rate is, okay? You are telling this committee here, the committee to believe that the 38 providers currently serve, and probably the 100 you'll have eventually, live within walking distance, not enough to be in the community. You're all in the community, but would still need to drive. You are trying to get us to believe that the majority of your providers either live within walking distance or take the bus to get
Yes.
to work.
Yes.
I think that's incredible. Okay, you're saying doctors, because I'm talking about medical providers, the doctors, that they're actually walking to work.
Yes. So for example,
Or-
I'll give you wonderful examples. You know, you just raised a very valid question. Dr. Alan David, who's been with us for over 24 years now. He lives in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, and every day he takes train number 5 and then number 2 to get to this office.
Well, you
Dr.
would have to provide, 1 second, I had the floor. You have to provide a list of all the current 38 providers.
Mhm.
So we can see what's currently, because bear in mind, you're expanding, right? So you're going to go from whatever was 38 to 100. So we need to determine we need to do our own study. It's not sufficient to just accept your study. We need to get proof of what percentage of the providers actually walk to work or take public transportation. Here is a fundamental problem that you're not thinking about. Your company is a business, right? It's providing healthcare for money. It's a lucrative business, right? And by you limiting any further parking, you are also taking parking away or your doctors. And to say that patients arrive by ambulance, when you just said it's a full comprehensive service, so not everybody's coming in for surgery, the spaces that you're not providing are going to be used on the street. So it means struggling businesses on Nostrand Avenue in that area are being deprived of business. So for example, if I want to go shopping on Nostrand Avenue and parking is any worse than it is right now, I will not go. And so a neighboring business is going to struggle, whereas your business is so lucrative. You could easily spend $2 million to acquire a lot or raise a building within the area by parking. So I think what you're saying is outrageous. It does not take into account other businesses. I think it's being self-driven, and I, quite frankly, question the integrity of everything you just said tonight.
Well, you know, I am really sorry you are questioning what we're doing, because we've been, you know, as I said, an integral part of this community for 24 years. When you say, you know, it's a very lucrative business, you know, when the health plan pays you $15.25 for a primary care provider to see, you know, a patient, regardless how many times the patient comes a month, you know, I hardly see this as a lucrative. We've been in this community. We've been servicing this community. We've done a lot of great things in this community. And we are not, there are no, in here next to our office, there is a public library and buildings, the apartment buildings. So so in terms of shopping, you know, there are no shops on the block where the proposed facility is to be located. So we are actually, the goal of the expansion project and the relocations project is not to take away from the community, but to give back to the community and to offer the vital services that this community needs, to reduce the
If you were a not-for-profit organization,
So
this discussion will be very
unfortunately, the
different.
difference between
But for you are saying that as a for-profit business, you're already struggling, but yet you're seeking to invest all this into a bigger facility, get 15, 18. I mean, I know you're right. You're already published online. I just
if
think
you're,
the fine
I'm
tune is
sorry,
that.
if you're familiar with the structure, it's easier for not-for-profits to survive because they get federal government grants and they're funded by the federal government. So it's much, much easier for a non-for-profit FQHC to survive versus a facility like this. So we are operating.
You missed what I said earlier. I said to you, I used to be the certified public accountant for an Article 28 facility. I know the lifestyle of the owner. I know the millions of dollars that he made. So I know that for a fact. I did the accounting. So
may I
you
add?
never come to me and plead poverty here. I'm simply saying what funds you need to acquire, get additional funds, get a building nearby, raise it, and create the parking. The price of community businesses from parking is grossly unfair.
Can I add something? Because I'm not sure if you heard in my presentation. Can you hear me? Is that okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I also just wanted to say that we are supporting, I don't know if you heard it, 3 different non-for-profit residency programs in this building, which I just wanted to point out. So I know we're not non-for-profit, but as part of this, we are doing a whole educational facility for those 3 different.
And absolutely, you get interns for free, right? That's a great deal.
Okay, I'm
If
just
I were
trying
you.
to say that we're
That's
partnering.
not how it works. No, we don't get the interns for free. We don't get the interns. The interns come with the physicians, and while physicians sees the interns get the training. It's not that they see the patients. It's not that this is a billable service. They get trained with the physicians that are here on premises rendering the service to the patients. The interns are not allowed to see the patients on their own outside of the hospital settings. They can only be trained. They're allowed to shadow. They're allowed to participate in deriving the treatment plan for the patient, but they are not allowed to treat the patients, diagnose the patients, or do anything on their own.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that we are, because we are partnering with a non-for-profit. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Allison Martinez.
Good evening. I just have 2 questions. One, just to follow up on this not-for-profit thing that you just mentioned. How many of those, well, I don't know if the program is in existence already, but how many of those interns are actually from this community or are Black and brown? What are the demographic breakdowns of the interns?
So the majority of the residents, that participate in the program, the residents are determined by the hospitals themselves. So it's always a mix of students that we get from different backgrounds that come not only from New York State, but if they landed the residency at SUNY Downstate or New York Presbyterian. And we never know until the students are coming in with the providers. The hospital determines it.
Okay. My second question is more a concern about, I actually live on I own a home on Farragut Road there. The amount of garbage on both sides across the street, and the fact that on numerous occasions, even when the building was still in existence over there's always a lot of trash that is not properly contained on both sides of the street. So what accommodations are you making going forward with this new construction?
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of people in the community use that place to drop their garbage, and we've taken numerous measures to do this, but with the new construction, we have designated the space inside for the garbage storage that would be taken out right before the company that collects the garbage comes in to get it. We won't designate any space outside of the office. So there is no place where the patients or anyone in the community can drop off their garbage.
Okay, and so that will accommodate the trash from both sides of the street? Is that what's
Yes.
gonna happen?
Yeah,
Okay.
right now, the trash from this facility is stored in the garage and then the company collects it from the garage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Hazel Martinez.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to know what types of ambulatory surgical procedures are going to be performed at this place?
Absolutely, Ms. Martinez. So we anticipate to provide services, same day ambulatory surgery procedures in 9 different specialties. Anything from, life-saving screening colonoscopies for colon cancer to ENT procedures, from septum corrections to glands removal to tonsillectomy to GYN procedures, orthopedic surgery, podiatry. We ophthalmology procedures, a large variety of services from cataracts to lasers. We anticipate to have pain management procedures for those people that are dealing with chronic pain in their daily lives. We anticipate to have urology procedures, life-saving, biopsies that are extremely important. And also we anticipate to have the 9th would be, what else am I missing? Oh, pain management and general surgery, general and vascular surgery. We also started doing interventional cardiology that are life-saving procedures. And, in the hospital, the insurance companies and the patients would spend tremendous amount of money. However, in a setting like this, it represents tremendous cost saving to the state government, to the federal government, and to the patients as well, in terms of the co-pays and co-insurance amounts.
Because I'm a little concerned about, especially the interventional cardiology, because usually that's done in a hospital.
So these procedures are approved by the Department of Health and the federal government, and they are they provide necessary relief for the patients. But Shirley, maybe you can add a little bit more about the interventional cardiology.
For interventional cardiology is very crucial for us because majority of our patients are especially elderly patients. It's very hard for them to go to the hospitals. Usually it takes longer for them to get a procedure done. With the provider we have here, Dr. Yili, one of the top surgeons and his field, they would come in, see him, do all the testing in the facility. Within 2 weeks, they would be able to have the procedure done. And it's very effective. Usually the patient comes in, barely able to walk, but once they do the procedure and they follow up with treatments, the life expectancy and life improvement is very beneficial for them. So
you're going to be equipped to manage, because sometimes in interventional cardiology, you have to send that person has to have stents put in or something else. You're going to be doing that there?
No, we're not doing these types of procedures.
we're not doing stents. We're doing revascularization.
Okay.
All good?
Do you do that now?
Yes, we do. But because of the space, we are limited on how many patients get access to this service. So that's why we're looking to relocate Gold Step to a bigger, better facility so that more patients can receive access to this vital service.
I believe we have 2 more. Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, everyone. Just to find out, now that that building across the street has been demoed, and you're in the process of asking what is the time frame in terms of actual construction?
So I can answer this one. We anticipate 2 years or 18 months around to build after we get an approval, whatever that is, from the Board of Standards and Appeals. We're waiting for a hearing. We're coming to you first, hoping that we can get a hearing at the Board of Standards and Appeals by the fall. So then probably takes like 3 or 4 months at the board. And then after that, we anticipate 18 months. And the Board of Standards and Appeals gives you up to 4 years to build.
Okay.
I mean, 2 years.
Alright, so what I am, you know, my main concern is that, again, as the organization, in terms of, as we are in this community, looking at all of the different things that's happening, you know, I am not too sure if with whatever zoning that we have there, is it feasible for you to add parking? Is it worth the additional cost? Can it be done first thing?
So
That's my main question, so that the entire land use committee could get a synopsis of that, because I don't think that's very clear.
So
If
what
it
would
can
happen
be
is if we added parking, then we would lose a floor. Let's say we add, depending, or 2 floors. It depends how much parking you're requesting here, but we were required to do 44 spaces. So we could lose multiple floors for parking, and then we wouldn't be able to put in all the different facilities that we're looking to put. And the reason we lose floors too is because we didn't want to ask for too many waivers. We want to ask for the smallest amount possible. So we're only asking for a parking waiver. The building other than that is fully compliant. If we were to add parking, we could, and keep as much of the building, we may say, you know, I have to ask for other waivers, like a height waiver or a floor area waiver, some other type of waiver, in order to keep the amount of space that we would need to, you know, have all the providers and be able to expand appropriately. I hope that helps.
Yeah, so that helps. So then that allows us to really make a conscious decision on what it is. It's either we lose more services or we get parking. And for me, the most important thing is the services. That area has enough transportation. It has enough access to transportation. It's 1 block or 2 blocks away from Flatbush Junction. It's buses pass in that area. So for me personally, this is my personal opinion, the services are more important than the parking. So I think that, you know, that is something that should be weighed and be able to think. And if you guys have been here for 24 years already, looking to expand, to put more services, I appreciate that, because being in this area here, if the closest hospital or ambulatory care, whatever it is so much further from us in terms of having to travel 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get to Kings County, depending on where you are, and you have something a little bit closer that you could get some of these things done, I think what we should be looking at is how much more services could be provided for this community, because the community is just growing. It's growing. You have much more elderly folks that are living longer, that need care and services. So I think that we could look at the waiver for the parking and not make that an issue, because again, the services are more important based on the fact of the traffic. And I'm speaking to this as the transportation chair and public safety chair. I'm the new transportation and public safety chair. So I'm looking at this in terms of that. We have access to transportation there. I don't see why we should want parking, which the parking can do nothing except for have parking, when the services could help the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
I have my hand up.
Yeah, Ms. Vigliante, yeah, sorry, I was just, you know.
Yeah. So this is still related to the parking. So the Department of Buildings denied your proposal for the facility because of the parking. And
We asked them for that denial because we knew we were going to Board of Standards and Appeals to waive the parking.
but they denied it because they would have denied it anyway because.
Yeah, but we tell them
So,
that,
well, but let me finish my question. So they're denying it, but if you're saying that you would have to put in 44 spots?
45.
There was no like waiver less than that. It would have to be 45 spots.
that's what we figured in order to get the space we need to provide what we need while also not waiving anything else in the building. We looked at it in a lot of different ways and we came up with,
So, like, but you're right, but that's a lot of spots. Why couldn't you do maybe 20 spots or even 10
we
spots?
would need another, so we would need another level to be spots and then we would lose a level of our 6-story building.
You lose one level for
More
10
than
spots?
5.
Or more than 5. So where would you put the 5 spots?
5 spots are in, let me see if I could actually show you here. I have plans. Oh, here we go. You can see them here. It is in the first floor plan. You can see that's where the spots are.
I don't see, I don't.
You don't see
maybe I can't
spots?
read it. I maybe I just can't read it. These rectangular spots?
Yeah, those are the spots. And then the other part is the lobby to get in the building and go up to the facility.
Okay, and there's no workaround for more spots without.
Without
taking the
another
spots out?
level, no workaround.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Viglianti. Mr. Price.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to clarify something. There's a trade-off between the height of the building and the number of parking spots, right?
Yeah, so we didn't want to waive anything else. So the
Okay, so-
height of the building is compliant.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify what our options actually are. You're asking us for the parking waiver,
Yes.
but conceivably, if we didn't give you the parking waiver and we asked you to figure out a way to create more spots, that would require you to
Actually,
Re-
different special.
reconfigure the building.
Yeah.
And that would mean that you'd have to come back and ask us for some other kinds of waivers. Is that correct?
Yeah, and more of them probably.
Okay, so it's not simply a matter of we give you this waiver and it's height. There's a trade-off between if we give you this waiver or possibly have to consider in the future other waivers.
Yeah, and we also have to obviously keep in consideration, and that's why we're here too, but the neighborhood character is an important finding in a variance. So you're building, you
Right.
can't just build anything you feel like. It has to look and feel like the buildings around.
Right, okay, so I just wanted to clarify that it's not simply we gave you this waiver or it's nothing. There are other options that we have provided to us as a committee for how we go forward.
It's
Not
really,
necessarily today, but
it's really to them as the applicant, not really us as the committee. The options are really on their side,
I mean, they had to
Can
create the option.
what would the other waivers be possibly? Can you give us ideas?
Like,
I'm gonna try to circle, what, you guys have that answer? now?
yeah, it would be like height, floor area, things that are more intense than parking. And
Envision it like this. They're asking for a special permit similar. I'm just trying to get my committee up to speed so we could probably get the vision correct. The same special permit that Kings Highway, I'm using another example, was asking for was a special permit to operate as a storage facility, right? This special permit, it is a special permit, right? Am I using the right?
this is a variance, actually.
Okay, so this variance is asking to waive something that's attached because the zoning across the street is different from the zoning that they're building. The other option would be, without overstepping and getting into the conversation, would be to build something or to allow them to build something that can accommodate the 45 spots that they were required to happen before, which would make the building larger in size, right?
Correct, if we did that option.
Which would make them have to change the zoning from its current, which would change it from it would still be a variance, right? Or could
Yeah, it would be a variance, but it would be a bigger variance and we'd have to think about the neighborhood. And the other option would be to build a very, very small building that doesn't require parking, or pretty much the same size building with the parking. We kind of get messed up either way because of the parking requirement.
I have a question.
Who's asking?
Ms.
Bennett?
Bennett? Yes.
Okay, that's Bennett.
Now, you stated that, Ms. Lees, stated that you need the variance, rather, or vote, so that you don't have to provide these parking spaces.
Correct.
Now, like I said, I know the area. I work in that field. Where are you going to put these special vehicles when they come to drop off, pick up patients? And no patients who come for ambulatory, I guarantee you, they're not taking mass transit. Very few. Because if they're anesthetized, they cannot get on a bus.
Well, that's why we'll have an ambulance service, and in front of our building, we'll have a designated drop-off area.
And we already have one at the current building where we are right now. We have area designated for ambulance pickup and drop off.
Oh, I'm fully aware of it. I see it. But most of the time, they have to park on top of the sidewalk. There's no room. Sometimes 4 or 5 of them come at a time. Not just one every hour, 3, 4, 5. And there is no place for that. It's too tight. The parking would make sense to find some way to work into that parking. And as Ms. James said, this is not a not-for-profit business. So I guess cutting back on the amount of doctors may cut back on the amount of income for that business. But it makes more sense for the community. And remember, we vote as a together. We do not. No chair votes on their own. We vote together as a committee. We have to discuss it. We have to look at all the factors, not just 1, 2, 3. We have to sit down and look at this and how it is going to affect the surrounding area. And I know that area.
Absolutely.
Next to the library, it's do not stop. It's a safety zone.
But also when you are discussing the project and the relocation, I want you to consider the amount of vital services that we provide to the community. We've been providing to the community and we intend to provide to the community. As you know, I mentioned the dermatology example before. Think of every other specialty, ENT, interventional cardiology, to get the access to those services, Kings County months.
Yeah, we have Kings County, we have Downstate, we have Brookdale Hospital, and we also have what's left of Kingswood Jewish. We have 4 medical facilities already here.
Right.
And they do,
And
they serve quite well. And yes, I'm not finished. I have the 4. They also serve Medicaid and Medicare patients. Believe me, I'm fully aware of it. But you keep making the same exact statement that these are vital services. They're vital for your income.
No, they're
And
vital.
that I do understand. We have vital services here already.
So if you try to call Kings County Hospital or SUNY Downstate or Kingsbrook Jewish or any hospital in the area, tomorrow, try to get a dermatology appointment. The earliest appointment they will give you in November or December. And this is, this is coming not just from us, it's coming from the health plans that reach out to us to accommodate the patients that unfortunately do not have access to care. Most of the time. So I am repeating this because this is how this is the truth of the fact. This is how the things are. And, if we would be doing something wrong or incorrectly, we wouldn't be here for so long. We are contracted with every payer. We're contracted with every health plan. And, as I said, 85% of our patients are insured through Medicaid and Medicare programs. That's the whole purpose of Article 28 facilities, to ensure to provide access to care to underserved communities.
I have one final question, and that is there any way you can work in some type of parking other than 5 spots?
Unfortunately, Miss Elise, can you elaborate on this a little bit more?
I would put it in the recommendation because the Board of Standards and Appeals and the community board looks at the community board's vote. And if the Board of Standards and Appeals would be open to it, we would be more than happy to add another floor with parking or something like that, so we don't lose out on the facilities. But if you put it in your recommendation, maybe the Board of Standards and Appeals will be open to that idea.
That I would definitely put in a recommendation because I know that area. And it would be sliding the people who live in that particular area if you did not even include them in that research study.
Well,
So could I-
yeah, we definitely study the area, but if it's something that you feel as a community board is important, we can definitely work on putting it with the approval of the Board of Standards and Appeals. Because they're.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Brennan.
you.
So I'm gonna close out questioning with the last 3 hands that I'm seeing here.
Okay.
But no additional questions. Allison Martinez.
Hello, just two more questions I had to ask. What accommodations or conditions are you working towards to reach net carbon zero with that facility? And then I don't know if you're aware of this, but East Flatbush is actually one of is like the last on the list when it comes to ability to deal with extreme heat in terms of cooling centers and space. So is there a space or room in that building that could create that type of asset in our community, especially for seniors, to be able to access it as we're experiencing these extreme heat days that are getting worse rather than better? So is there an opportunity to use one of those rooms to be able to provide access for people to escape some of these environmental harms that we're experiencing? And perhaps that could be a variance that you could get. Or
Yeah, we would be more than happy if, again, you put in your recommendation that as long as the Board of Standards and Appeals is open to looking at it. But I think your first part of the question, all new buildings have to have green roofs or solar. There's all new building code things, and we will be complying with all new, because it's a new building, with all new energy codes, and that being either green or solar and all of that.
Okay.
I think you were saying that. So yeah, all of New York
Yes.
City has updated their codes, and anything new has to comply with all the new standards.
I just want to know what program or approach were you actually using for this building? Or has that not been decided?
Yeah, that hasn't fully been decided yet, but I guess what I'm just telling you is that it will comply with all new, you either have to do green or solar and all new energy codes. So anything else you want to recommend, please put it in the recommendation and we will talk about it with the Board of Standards and Appeals.
And you're not opposed to the option of having like a cooling space?
If anything's possible, like we're hearing it now, it's something we'd have to go back and discuss, but we want to provide for the community what the community needs. And, we just have to take a look at what's possible. And that's why I'm saying put in your recommendation, because the board will see that.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Price? Your hand still raised?
Yeah, no, I had a quick question. Regarding the ambulettes, do you have any idea the average time that they're on the street? And if so, how much time would that be?
Well, it depends on a patient to patient basis. Some patients, are able to get in and out very quickly. They get in and out of the ambulette. Other patients require the help of the lift if they're wheelchair bound. So it varies from patient to patient, but I would say on average, it can be anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes, 3 to 7 minutes. Once again, depending on the severity of the patient's conditions and limitations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Final question, Ms. Viglianti.
Yes, thanks. I don't know if you already said this, but are you going to be adding new services, or are you just expanding the existing services that you have into like larger facility?
We are expanding the services that we are currently offering.
Okay, so you're not adding anything.
No, we want to be able to provide more primary care hours for the patients, but we're not able to do that due to space limitations. We want to be able to provide more cardiology hours, dermatology hours, but due to space limitations, we're not able to expand the services that we have. So that's why we called it the expansion and relocation. So we want to relocate Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center across the street. So, and we want to be able to expand the services that we currently provide to the community at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vigilant.
You guys want to say anything in closing?
I guess I'll just, do you guys want to say? Sorry.
Yeah, Tijuana wanted to say something.
No, I actually wanted to speak on it because Ms. Tijuana, I'm one of the office managers, been working with the company for 15 years, as well as a local living. I lived in that area as well as a patient myself. And to give you, I understand the concerns, and I know some people have mentioned the finance of things, but I think it weighs into the service and what's important for the community. Putting more parking, yes, is space, is making more, space for people to park. But are we catering to the people that are driving in or our community? Because yes, giving more space for people to drive in and park, granted, but we're trying to provide also services to the community that a lot of the times, yes, we have different clinics and hospitals, but as example, I deal with patients on a daily basis of making appointments outside of us that we don't have now. And the wait time for a person to make an appointment is months. So I do understand the importance of parking, but at the same time, I think in our community, we need more services of doctors to cater to as much as our population has grown. They're building buildings left and right, and more people need help rather than parking. If I can, explain that, because I do deal with a lot of patients that need appointments, and their appointments, they need services now, and they have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to see, especially that we don't provide.
And I just wanted to say that obviously we're happy to come back and share any of this with your full board. We can call tomorrow or next week and ask when that is and let you know now. And then also that what we seek here is just hopefully a letter of support with any things discussed you'd like to add today, any comments or concerns, you can put that in and the Board of Standards and Appeals will read that.
Okay, well, we'll be in contact as far as your full board presentation. Yeah, just contact the office, Ms. Frazier. We'll talk about that. But ultimately, the board's decision is based off of this committee's decision. So
Yeah, understood. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes people want us there, sometimes they don't, whatever.
no, it's you have to present to the board at large. It's a requirement. But maybe there should be a return visit to discuss any possible changes or any ideas that may come up as a result of this meeting tonight.
Well, I don't personally, I just want to say about that is, I think you should put in the recommendations because I don't want to change anything unless the Board of Standards and Appeals agrees to it. Because if that makes sense, because there's no point of spending time and money unless the government says that's something we would consider. And we won't know that until the first hearing, but we would be happy to send you things as we move through the process or anything like that. That's why I'm saying just put whatever you think is best in your recommendation so we can ask them.
Ms. James, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just one final. Nobody here is questioning the need for enhanced and increased medical care. But what we're saying is that this is a community, quality of life is important for everyone here. And the fact that we are a brown and Black community doesn't change the fact that, we have to consider every element. Ms. Golden, I just have one question. Are you a community resident?
Ms. who?
Ms. Golden?
Oh,
Yes, I am.
Are
I
you a
live 10
community
minutes,
resident?
I live 10 minutes away from the office and I've been here for 24 years.
And you
And I-
walk or take the bus, and you walk or take the bus to work every day?
I actually do everything. I walked during COVID to the office, sometimes drive, and sometimes I take B44 I live on Nostrand and Avenue S, and bus B44 takes me right here. I'm in 11229 Nostrand Avenue between Avenue R and Avenue S. This is where I live, 3203 Nostrand Avenue. That's my home address. And, I consider myself part of this community for many, many years. I am proud to be part of this community. And every day, I leave this office with a great sense of accomplishment when our patients leave here happy and healthy.
if I may add something, and I know the parking issue, it's a big issue, and I can't remember the lady before that says she works around here or live around here, and there's a lot of parking problems. Right now, we have a lot of constructions going on in the area. I would love to say we only the facility that creates traffic and all that, and but it's not. There's a lot of buildings that are in midst of constructions. They are taking a lot of parking spaces so that they can load and unload. So when that happens, it creates a lot of traffic. So we don't have any control over that. Sometimes we do have to park unconventionally because of other conditions that are in the area. There's a lot of new buildings, there's a lot of constructions, there's a lot of other factors that are going on as we speak.
And the construction workers, most of them arrive in their own vehicles and take the spots, but once again, the area is changing, and we really hope that the board will see the need for the services and will help us with this variance. And, Shirley is part of this community. I am part of this community. Tijuana is part of this community. We all live here. We all take different methods of transportation to and from work. Sometimes it is Uber, sometimes it is bus. And, as I said, we walked during COVID, and majority of our staff walks to work. And we thank you for your time. We thank you for your attention. We thank you for your questions. We appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do for the community. And if you will have any additional further questions, we're here to answer all of them. Thank you.
Appreciate it. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you so much. So our office will call tomorrow to talk about whatever you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just contact Ms. Frazier. We'll see how we can coordinate. It might be a little hectic doing it for our first meeting, but it might be in October. We might be able to slot you.
Yeah, that whatever you do is fine. I just to find out whatever your vote is.
We as a group vote together.
Yeah, we might have to.
Your group together. I didn't mean your like the you. English is a difficult language sometimes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Moving through the agenda. Do we have any, do we want to discuss anything outwardly about the presentation? Now that the presenters have left the room? Anybody?
Yeah, I want us to be mindful and careful in terms of how sometimes we come off and address the people. Sometimes we could seem very combative. We could seem very thing, and we have to be careful with that because it could be interpreted as something else. Remember, these meetings are recorded. They will go back as a record, and we have to be careful and be mindful when we would say certain things that would seem combative. Just let us be cordial about it. We might not like certain things, we might not be pleased with it, but we shouldn't be in a place where we come off almost attacking the folks, whether it's non-for-profit, profit, whatever it is. Let's hear them out, and then when we have our own private discussion among the committee, we don't show them that face, because this is the kind of thing that could really embarrass our community board or cause our community board to be looked at in a certain way. So we got to be careful with that, because I don't want us to seem as though we cannot have a conversation without being in our feelings. That's what we have to be careful of. We have to be mindful of that, right? Because we don't know what we could do. We could ask them or request certain things. If we find parking is important, that's fine. But when we start to go into other things, it's very confrontational, and we have to avoid that. We have to avoid that.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Anybody else?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry,
Who's, I'm sorry, Mr.
Dale.
Dawes? Yeah.
But
yeah,
you can, Ms. James can speak first. Go ahead.
I don't know what this comment was meant to address. I don't know if I'm gonna pass on it. But by all means, if Mr. Lewis wants to maintain a certain deportment, that's his privilege and right. Okay, he's not in a position to tell anybody on this committee, except if they're out of order, how strongly they should express their views. And if I come to you that if this, I can't imagine any other community in Queens, for example, or in Staten Island, this presentation would have been made, right? So did I say yes? Did I say it's offensive? But you are not in a position to dictate, suggest how the person's going to shoot unless someone is out of order, right? So I just think you need to be very cautious and speak to other community.
I'm going to step in and say that
well.
the response was
Thank
not
you.
necessary. I'm going to step in and say that the response was not necessary. He made a obligatory response, just making an outwardly thing, and you're taking it personal and you're attacking him personally on the meeting. That's what I'm going to say. It's not necessary.
It was mad.
Whatever was
What
meant
was
is
meant
not
for.
necessary, and I'm not going to allow it moving forward. I'm going to try to control it moving forward, but it just that it is adding to our perception of how we handle things. I'm happy that it's happening here, and we could discuss it here. If it needs to be spoken about, let's speak about it here. But I do agree with him that we have to control how we speak to our applicants, right? There's a way to get our message across without coming across as aggressive.
Or subservient as well, because that's what I'm hearing. Subservience.
That's true. All of it could be
Thank
true.
you.
Just not the things that apply to one particular person. It all could be true. And it's something that we all need to look at. We all need to hold the mirror up, right? And it's only because I don't want we already have that perception. Let's be real. Let's be real. We're already looked at as combative, uncooperative, right? And not that we need to change that, but there's ways that we can control that internally. If we have issues, we can discuss it professionally, inside, outwardly. We need to absorb the information, take what we want, take what we need from it, but we can't have our applicants feeling that way towards the community board at large. That's my concern. That's my concern. I feel like we could have a better pathway to actually get ultimately what's necessary and what's needed. Obviously, everyone has their opinions. I can't control that. But I just wish that we just had a softer approach, and we get hard when it's required, not hard all the time. Ms. Hudson?
Yes. Good night, everyone. I
One
just
moment,
wanted
Mr.
to interject something.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hudson. I'm sorry, Ms. Hudson. Mr. Dawes?
Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
did get circumvented.
Can you
Mr.
hear
Dawes?
me?
Yes, I can.
Hold on. Let me connect to my Bluetooth. Sorry. Sure you can still.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dawes.
Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. So I wanted to address what Ms. James said earlier when she was talking about the money. I think you were saying that you're a CPA, correct? And you were talking about the funding. Is that correct, Ms. James?
Mm-hmm. She said that.
Yeah.
For an Article 8 facility.
I agree that it's about the money. I believe that we are being presented with a false dichotomy. I understand that there are differences in terms of heights about the buildings. I understand all of these kind of things. But we're being presented that, well, if we don't give the parking variance, then we will lose out on these services.
Okay.
There are hundreds of thousands of people that pass by that corner every single day. There are tons of business, and that's an underestimate. There are tons of businesses that want to be in this area just to be able to access the people. This is not the only business that is able to provide the services. They simply need to decide, do they want to spend the extra money on the parking or not? It's their choice. And and they can still increase their services. They might not be able to increase their services, 200-fold. Maybe they could only increase it by 150%. But our quality of life matters.
Absolutely.
I live less than 3 blocks away from there. Parking has been horrendous for years. And it's not just the construction that they tried to blame at the end. It is a false dichotomy. It's about the money. Do they want to spend the money or not? If they really feel that this community needs the services and that's their primary reason, which is not, because if the money didn't make sense, they wouldn't do it. They simply need to decide, is the expansion still worth it with the parking or not? And if it's still worth it, can they find funding? They can find funding or they can't. And even if they can't find enough funding, we need to come at this with an abundance mindset. There are multiple other businesses that want to come into this neighborhood. They're not the only one. So it is a false dichotomy to say, well, if we don't give them the variance, then they may not be able to do this. No, they're going to have to come and change.
Yeah.
A bunch of buildings went up and a bunch of buildings have parking spots because parking is a nightmare here. And our quality of life matters too. So I agree with her. It's about the money, and it's a simple decision. Either they want to spend the money or not. Right now, they think they can get away with not spending the money.
Yeah,
They think that we're going to just agree.
yeah, they would obviously need to spend more to build a larger facility.
But it's not just spending more. If they come to this committee, would they be able to get all the different variances or the different waivers that would need to do that? That's what we did not take away from them. Yes, that they could change it, but are we as a committee willing to give them all of those different waivers that would need to do that? You see, that's another question we got to answer to and be very forthright with. And that is what the lady explained in front. That is why they took this one as the lowest one, because that would have been the least thing to have to come and ask and go over and go over. Are we willing to give them all the waivers for the parking? Yes or no?
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Lewis, but it's not just the easiest because it's the path of least resistance. It's also the least amount of money. It's a business decision that they're making as well.
See that? I can see it. I can see it, Mr.
And again,
And
they can still increase the capacity. They can still increase their capacity. They just might not be able to increase the capacity as much as they want to.
Right, they
Instead of
just
making
said that they could
200%
take,
more,
they
they
would have
can.
to get rid of
Go ahead.
one floor, right? They said to give us those spots, they would have to lose one floor. So
I understand,
let's
but it
take
would
the
still be
trade-off.
bigger.
No,
Their
I'm
business would
agreeing
still
with
be
you.
bigger.
I'm
Their
agreeing
business,
with you. I'm
okay,
saying they would just have less services and one less floor of services, and we'd get some parking. So why can't they do that?
It's obviously all economical. There's a
Right, but so we don't have to give in to it. We can say, listen, then, you have to give up the floor. We want some parking. I mean, because the other option is they don't have to be there at all, right? They already have a facility. They just, and that's why I asked if they were going to include more services, because that to me would be important. But they're not going to be providing new services. They're just going to be expanding the services that they already have. So they already have a presence there.
That's
They're
correct.
already there.
who's speaking?
Ms. Bennett, what I'm going to say, I agree with Ms. Marguerite. They are expanding. They're not taking away anything. They're expanding. Well, let them expand parking so it doesn't inconvenience the residents.
It doesn't only, yeah, because like Ms. James says, it inconveniences all the other businesses and the people who live there. So we have to have a balance. There has to be some trade-off. They have to make some concession. We don't have to let them, there at all.
No. And our interest is for the residents. The businesses, yes, but the residents have to come first. Or why are we here?
Okay. So let me just ask a question. I'm not in support or really, I don't really want the facility there to begin with, to be honest. But if they were to present an alternative, and that alternative required them to change the zoning that's there now, and they expanded the parking. Is that the only blockade that we currently have? Is the parking situation and the associated, because now it's the required parking for an R6C13 zoning area versus them potentially coming back and asking for a 10-story building that has the 45 spots in it. But that new zoning at that height may actually require more parking.
No, I think that that's not even a question. Like, we don't want to change the zoning. We want them to work within the zoning and give us what we want, which is they get a building the size that it is, and they give up 1 floor for parking.
Correct.
Or two floors, I think she said.
Correct.
There's a 6-floor building, 2 floors for parking, and they still have 4 floors for services, which is 4 floors more than they have now.
Correct. And it wasn't about changing the zoning. If they said because it's a different district on one side of the street than the other, they wanted to for the parking. We need that parking. I'm sorry. Like I said, I know that area.
It's also a question of, every time we do this and we let people get away with things like that, that's one more building with less parking. And then the next person comes in and the next business comes in and they want to do the same thing and we say, okay. And so we keep doing this to ourselves, and it's destroying the quality of the residents that live in those areas.
Correct. It sets a bad precedent.
So we want them to build within the confines of whatever the district is or whatever the current zoning is. You want them to build as of right. That's what I'm getting as of it. Because the as of right gets you your 45 spots, and they'll have to deal with whatever's left and whatever decision that makes I'm just trying to gauge where we are conceptually, because we don't have enough tonight to actually vote on anything. We would have to revisit this when we actually have quorum. I actually have to get this list updated. I can't see that we have 50 members. I don't see that being accurate. So to establish and to actually vote on any type of support, recommendation, or denial, but I think we're far from that. I think we have some time before we actually get there. Visit us anyway. Yes.
I believe if you remember, I don't know if you heard what she said. She said we can put that in as a recommendation instead of the 45 spots, says 20. This one, all they do, this 1 floor would take away a lot from this, hurting the residents. I'm not for hurting the residents.
Well, I don't want to recommend anything without seeing a new proposed plan, personally, right? We could say 45 to 22 spots and whatever it looks like, but that by them doing that, it may transform what they're currently proposing to us and cause another issue that we dislike. That's the issue.
Carefully, and then when they were saying something about money, it comes out to 1,000 cents for them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I just don't want to make a blanket statement.
Is it a bad time to go in the store? You sure?
Say that we would accept half, and then alternatively they come with something modified, and if it's another issue.
How about we put it this way? For 1 floor, how many spots can we get? For 1 floor, just giving it 1 floor, how many parking spots can we get? And they said we can do it as a recommendation.
Yeah. They'll be back. Mr. Price, I'm sorry, I see hands raised. I didn't realize.
Excuse me, Miss Hudson was waiting.
Miss Hudson, sorry, yeah, Miss Hudson.
And then it's Hazel, that's myself, then it's Mr. Price.
I apologize.
Yes, actually, good night, everyone. I just wanted to add something to the conversation by pointing out that a number of health facilities are being established in the community. For example, on Nostrand Avenue, I think there's a big, what is it? I think it's Sloan Kettering has a big facility between Avenue H and Avenue I.
That's correct.
And also I noticed on
they also have parking.
Church, yes. I noticed on Church Avenue, another, I think it's Mount Sinai. I'm not sure, one of those, the very big hospitals from Manhattan, a lot of them are coming into the community. So that facility is not the only opportunity, will not be the only area where members of the community can access good healthcare. So I am sort of swaying towards looking at parking as an important issue in the community, because it's a factor in all of the areas of our community. So that's basically my
Thank you, Ms. Hudson.
you're welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the names order. Who was next, Allison? I'm sorry. I didn't see the names.
Hazel is next.
All right, Hazel. Ms.
Oh,
Martin.
yes, I have two comments to make. Number one, I used to work with the Office of the Medicaid Inspector General, so we did audits of these Article 28 facilities, and they're not necessarily that great in the community either. So I'm not looking, when you audit them, there are always a lot of deficiencies. And the other thing is perhaps if the committee members receive some information about who's going to make presentation and what it's about before the meeting, people could at least center themselves or prepare themselves with questions. And the last comment I have to make is I'm tired of coming every month to the meeting to be lectured on how I should speak or what people should say. I think just like people feel that they can lecture us, we have a right to say whatever it is we have to say. Of course, you don't want to be rude or offensive, but however, people have a right to a lot of these issues are very heightened by the conditions under which we find ourselves living now, and people have a right to say what they want to say without being told. We're not children, and I don't want to be told how I should respond.
Not an issue. I could say that this link was actually sent out last week on the 29th, prior to tonight's meeting. I understand we were off for the summer, but everybody didn't just get it yesterday. It was forwarded.
I'm not saying that, but we don't get any. Years ago, we used to get real information before the meeting.
I gave you all the information I had access to. They sent a submitted link with all of the documents attached. So I'm doing the best I can with when I get the information. When Ms. Frazier gave it to me or told me on the 29th, she distributed it, I believe, the same day. So we'll do better to try to get the information out, but it was sent out probably a week, possibly 2 weeks ago, with a submitted link with all of the documents for tonight attached, then resent out with the meeting link tonight. Mr. Price or Ms. Martinez? Sorry.
My only thing is that I feel like we have to kind of look at when these people come with these projects that require variances or some either special permit, we do need to see about what we can extract in terms of asset building in our community. This is an opportunity where we could get, like I was saying, we don't have enough cooling center spaces in East Flatbush, and we're dealing with more and more extreme heat. That affects our seniors, that affects everyone. So if there are opportunities for us to leverage their need to get approvals, for us to get some of the spaces built here that we need to be able to address certain concerns or issues, we need to leverage that as much as possible. So that's my biggest thing, like right now. I mean, aside from them controlling like the garbage and all those things, but what we can get in terms of spaces that we need, that's what we need to leverage the most. That's it.
You, Mr. Price or Ms. James? Was it Ms. James?
Yeah.
All right.
No pleasure, no satisfaction about not being combative. I just use the word.
Yeah.
But when I hear someone come and make a presentation and they feed incorrect information or correct information, but it's presented incorrect, then I get offended. and I get insulted, right?
I can understand that.
So for example, when she talked about the $15, that sounds so pathetic. But what she's not saying, they get that flat rate. They'll never go to the doctor for years, right? Every month they get that payment.
Mhm.
I'm simply saying we seem to be obsequious, always willing to give because somebody comes to us. Whether it makes me feel important, you feel important, whatever it is. And we are not focusing on the needs of the community as a whole. They have come to us to ask for a variance of 44 parking spots for a business that have over probably 200 employees plus patients on only 1.5. There's nothing wrong in saying to them, we find that unacceptable. We think that you need to find money in your budget to be able to have underground parking spaces, even if they probably really need 75 underground parking spots. Because I find it unbelievable that all those doctors are taking the bus to go to work. I'm just simply saying we don't have to accept the told to us is as it appears. And there is nothing wrong holding somebody's feet to the fire when they present information to us that is not totally accurate. So my position would be that there's, it's about, we can bargain. The initial position would be, no, we think we need the parking spaces and they need to do the underground parking. And probably in exchange for that, we'll also allow them to go one floor higher. There's probably no wrong, nothing wrong with one floor higher. We were willing to, but they didn't come into, they came in for recommendations, but not compromise. And that's what I think caused the impasse here.
Yeah.
Thank you, I'm done.
I appreciate that because I do think that they should have come prior to their actual build to get any recommendations prior to whatever they have, and now they're stuck with whatever they proposed and they have to move forward with it, similar to our other situation. Fortunately for the other situation that failed last calendar year, they were able to make adjustments, but this team seemed to just come with whatever they have with the plan of trying to get this accommodation. So yeah. Well, I agree with everybody. Anybody else who was sorry? Ms. Viglianti?
Yeah, Mr. Frey, I just wanted to say that I really did just get that information yesterday. Because last week when I got the invite for the meeting, there was nothing there. There was something to download and I couldn't download anything. So when I got the reminder yesterday, that's when I got the full amount of info. So I really did just get it yesterday. Just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Frey, you asked if there was anything else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to, when you were mentioning earlier, if they came back to us, what would we like to see? I think Allison Martinez's recommendations, getting things that they need for the community, that could be, that they can work into their budget and also could be beneficial to the community. I think that's an important mindset. And I think we need to continually have that mindset.
We have ideas
and present by.
In addition to the cooling facilities and any other things that we have, like some ideas we could pull from.
I don't want to just shoot off the top of the head, but I just want to say her mindset and even before she came back in and said it again, I agree completely. What can they do to help? Yes, increased services can help the community and it can also help them. But what are other things that our community needs and that can be beneficial? And how can this new build also add to the community and be beneficial? So I won't take any more of the community board of the committee's time, but I do think we need to continually have that mindset. I think it's the right mindset.
Equity mindset. Thank you, Mr. Doss. Miss sure the order. Sorry, Ms. Martinez.
Mr. Price, it should be Mr. Price.
Mr. Price, sorry, Mr. Price.
I'm patient. I'm good. I won't take too much time because a lot of what I wanted to say has been said. I will just put it in this context. We're going to be doing this every month for 10 months, every year. People are going to come to us and say things that may or may not be framed correctly. We may or may not get offended. It is not what we say, it's how we say it. That's all. No one's telling anybody what to say. Nobody's telling anybody what to think. Nobody's telling anybody what to do necessarily. I'm just going to say I grew up hearing it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I fully believe in playing hardball, but we can go about it. We don't have to go from 1 to 8. And I feel like sometimes we do that. That said, I haven't been able to be part of this committee as regularly as I wanted to for the last year. That will change this year. So I may be speaking from a space of ignorance, and I apologize if anyone disagrees with my assessment as such, but that's where that's what I see. Two, I was going to say this about Allison's idea before. I like the way Dr. Gauss put it. Like, we need to start thinking about what else we can get. These are negotiations and we have power. I grew up with an expression that people will give you what you want if you're willing to give them what they want. And since we're always going to be doing this, we should always be seeking what we can get to. As regards to the parking, I'm just going to say this. Their first facility has been here for what, 25 years? 24 years. We need to start thinking about not just now, but 5, 10, 15, 20, 24 years from now, right? Those 45 parking spots may seem like everything now, but how many people in this community are going to be driving in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? Because let's be honest, there's a push, not just by the city, but overall, to get us driving less. And we tend to have a lot of older people in this community who will stop driving in the next decade or so. And how many of us are still going to be here in 20 years and driving that much too? So I'm not coming down one way or the other on how many parking spots or what have you. I'm just saying, moving forward, in addition to having that equity mindset, that growth mindset, we need to also be thinking about things in terms of the long term and time and what's going to be relevant decades from now.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Ms. Martinez?
Okay, yes. I have a couple of comments. Number one, we need to be careful when all these people come for these variances, and they're always come in the interest of our community, but is it really? It's not. It's about economics and about making money. It's about a profit. And so therefore, they always snow us with how much they care about the community. She doesn't even live in it, number one. Number two. And the other thing parking is very essential, especially in this community. And the people making the decisions about parking now fail to realize that they're going to need a car down the road, because how long are you going to be riding that bicycle? And in 10 years, you'll all be 10 years older and looking for another mode of transportation.
Thank you. All things need to be considered. I don't think anybody's weighing one way or the other. I think we gotta look at the full spectrum of what we're up against. Ms. Bennett?
Yes, I would say I agree with Allison. I agree with both Martinez and Ms. J.L. James. We do need to keep a united front, but we also need to speak our mind. And when someone openly gives us or feeds us wrong information, we need to call them on it and let them know we are wise and we know what we're doing, what that person is talking about. It's not a matter of being insulting or being rude, because if they can feed us rude and give us incorrect information or false information or misinformation, why not call them on it?
I don't think that the conversation is not about calling out misinformation. It's about the manner and the tact that we use in doing so. That's what we were discussing. And even in discussing it, discussing that, we're having everybody respond with being offended again. You know, all we're trying to do is all we're trying to do is to try to. There's a way. I'm not going to tell anybody how to say it or whatever it is. There's a way. We're all adults.
Well, there's no yelling.
There's a way.
Going on, which is good, and that's all we have to do is keep it civil, and I believe we did so. Not having to give away.
I'm sorry, Miss Bennett. You're going in and out.
What I was going to say is they come to us because they want something, but we're here because they need something from us. Negotiation, sure. Just like I asked her, what do we have to do to get some parking? She said recommendation. That I believe we should be able to do.
We can work on the recommendation. Like I said, I don't want them to dictate how we have this discussion. That's not really up for them to do. You know, when they formally bring the variance in front of us, they'll be required to come back again, like any other process. And like, we don't have to jump at whatever they're recommending to try to get us to push, give them whatever letter. We're too smart for that. We know that. What I'm saying is,
give it away the time.
Like usual, you know, we start off our year, we have this information, and although the delivery is poor, we're not restricted to any time frames at this time. Everyone has the links, everyone has the information, can study the information there, better inform ourselves about what they're trying to do. And when we're informed, which is what I was discussing with the information, it came to us late, but now that we have it, you know, it's our duty to take that information and be as informed as possible. And then when they come back to us with it advised or revised in any way, we understand what the changes are, right? Unfortunately, the way it was distributed, the timing of the distribution, and I actually pushed for them to get us here early, which I don't know if it helped or hurt the situation, because I wanted us to have this conversation out there so it can continue to be unfinished business, knowing that they're pursuing something in the earlier year. I didn't want to lose a month, you know? I didn't want to lose a month and push it out and have the conversation prior. I thought that we could have it. I felt that we should have it openly. And now that everyone has the information, that information can be reviewed. And based off of these discussions that we're having, we could collectively next month, I'm hoping that in the unfinished business of next month, we can have these recommendations that we're asking for. We can have alternative ideas so that when they do come and present to us formally, we can hit them with those alternative ideas, or we could just send them a letter saying, would you consider these ideas? You know, as an alternative to this variance of question you're requesting. You know, that's how I'd like to approach it, more proactive, you know, to try to be proactive and then follow it up with, you know, some documentation, you know. So I don't want us to feel like we're under the gun and we have to vote tonight, because that's not what was happening. I would never do that.
No.
I would never do that. Like, as usual, the information came and I shared. You know, I'm not a hoarder of information. The second I saw it, we sent it out. So it doesn't benefit me to have the information and not give it to you guys. But I do have to talk to Ms. Frazier about that distribution. Maybe something happened, because I could have sworn it was at least a week or 2 weeks before. But there's always glitches. We have a lot of personnel changes. Things are changing around in the office, so it could have slipped through the cracks. But I thought it was sent out. But we need to be more neat about it. Maybe it was like down the email thread and not really towards the top of it, because I think it was a forwarded email. But then again, with these distributions from our office, sometimes we don't see who it's being distributed to. You know, I can't see that you guys didn't get it Tuesday, August 29th at 11 a.m. I don't see that. But I'll follow up in the chat and all other technology that we use to communicate to make sure that everyone has it moving forward, you know, so we can be as prepared as possible. All right.
Sounds reasonable.
More hands. Allison?
So here's some quick thoughts to add to this list, because they can fund an exposure program to the medical field for local high schoolers in that area, because the interns they're gonna have are not gonna be Black and brown kids from this area at all.
They
So they
mentioned
could
that.
do something like that. So they mentioned interns, but those interns are not gonna be from this area, but
No, they
we-
said from the doctors, the residents.
right, but I'm saying, we know who tends to get exposed and be in those internships are not Black and brown kids in this area. But if we have them fund a program that ties them with the local high schools, so they get at least some kind of exposure and immersion, so they can see that profession, that could help. They should sponsor some local health fairs, that's, right at Hillel Plaza or something like that. I don't know if they are actually participating in some of the free programs that happen to provide healthcare access. They could do that. They can also support and sponsor 5 medical screening events with the local elected officials. We usually have screening buses. We can tie them right to November, for men's health, prostate health, all those things, mammograms. Let them do some of that lifting in the community that we could see, not just what, happens to come in through their door that they are paid directly for. So those are things that we could try to extract from them as well. And it can't be just a memorandum of understanding. It has to be like conditions of yes.
Yeah.
It must be like, is this or it's not a no.
Trying to jot it. So I got.
That's what we have. Yeah.
So we want outward. We need stuff that they're gonna allow us to use their facility for, sponsored by.
Or they have to, or they must sponsor, be active partners sponsoring these types of events within the community.
And then we also to be able to utilize a space for emergency events like the current heat
It
wave.
doesn't have to be the space. It could be that if it's held somewhere else, but we're always looking for people, for organizations and businesses to sponsor these types of things that happen. Could be in the schoolyard, it could be wherever it is, but they need to be active participants in that. So that's neighboring. And the other thing is, this is because we're going to face these opportunities where people are going to need things from us. We need to actually engage in creating a neighborhood survey so we can help to understand what the needs are in terms of space, so that we know exactly what to then propose as what we want to extract from these projects that can meet community needs. What are the spaces they need? What are the services they need? And then we can try to develop opportunities to use this to get that for them. This is a way to get funding for things that we wouldn't normally get.
Have them carry the workload to get the things that we don't have a pathway to get. All right.
Having to rely so much only on government funding, let private industry and their needs fund our desires.
Is there a way legally that we can lock them into actually committing to something like
We
that?
just ask for it. That's all we have to do is ask.
Oh,
This is
okay.
a negotiation.
Hands. I lost track. I wasn't writing it down. Ms. Viglianti? Sorry. Oh, Ms.
Yeah.
Hudson? You're
Yeah.
muted? I'm not
Who's
sure.
first? I don't know.
Oh, no, my hand was not up this time. Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Jeffrey.
Okay. Yeah, negotiation is really important to keep that in mind, that, we don't have to give everything, that, we have to ask for things also. But I have a question. I just wanted to go back to when I asked, when I mentioned that the Department of Buildings had denied the facilities proposal
Mhm.
because of the parking. The attorney said she asked them to deny it. And I just found that odd. Is that something that's a common occurrence?
I thought it's required in order to get the variance. I don't think that you could just go for the variance. I would have to check, but I think that you would need the denial in order to go
So-
for the variance.
Okay, so she could request them to deny it.
She can't request them to deny it.
Well, that's kind of like what she
Yeah.
said.
Well, during overview, they're gonna deny it, right? If they
Right.
know that the R6 has requirements and they don't have it there, they're gonna
Right,
reject it.
they would have denied it anyway, but she was making it seem like she asked them. She actually said, I asked them to do that.
In their process, they work with these. It's just a process for them. So in their mind, they think that they're asking when it's just a process.
Well, to me, it seemed more like she was trying to make it seem like something else.
Oh, okay.
I thought she was being disingenuous.
Precise. Can I just jump in, John? I may apologize, but exactly the point I'm making, right? So it was
Yeah.
probably a correct statement, and she told him to expedite the denial so she could take it to the board, right? But she makes it sound as if she, and that's what I'm saying. This whole
Yeah.
presentation was truly the kind of misinformation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading what Mr. Johnson said. Mr. Price? Your hands up, Mr. Price?
Yeah. I just wanted to say very quickly as a point of clarification, when I was saying when they were here that we had choices, I didn't mean that we had options in terms of what they were presenting. I meant we have options tactically.
Okay. Can you clarify? Tactically?
We can slow play things, we can speed things up, we can move on their timetable, we can move on our timetable. We can say we feel like you need to do this, and we can say if they come back in a month and everything is all good, we can go, okay, good, we can move forward. If we decide that they're playing with us, we can quietly play with them, right? Like if you want to come to us with some misinformation and we ask you to do something and you come back and you kind of do it but not really, we can say, all right, now you got to come back again and come back again and come back again. So when I say tactically, I mean in terms of like literally how many moves is it going to take you to get to where you want to go?
There's certain things inside of the process that's changed that would limit that to a point.
Right.
Because we do restrict, like, we do have to have a response when they go officially. I think it's within 60 days. That includes the general board meeting with the letter rejecting, accepting, or recommending the proposal. So there's things within the rules that we can do, but once it goes out officially, there's certain things that we can't do. Fortunately for us, we were not in that time frame, which is what I want everybody to accept currently. So this is an opportunity to better understand what they're building. If you're familiar with plans, not familiar with plans, it's a lot of information on the link. And when she does contact the board tomorrow, I'm going to see if I could get it not digitized in that way, possibly in a zip file, because it might be easier for everybody to access, because it's just a link to somebody's drive. And the way that it's separated currently, you would just have to read through everything to find even this parking study. It took me during the call, it took me 20 minutes to find the parking study. And at this moment, I can't even tell you what file I have to open to see where it was. That doesn't help us out. So
I'm not saying that it's unlimited options, just that we have options.
Sure. Within the confines of the timeline.
The confines of the rules of the timeline. Yeah. But we've got options.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Dawes?
Yes. So in terms of that, we can also start to set expectations, informing them that we appreciate transparency, and informing them that we're not very favorable to fluff. That if they don't know something, they need to be transparent and say they don't know, and give us a time frame for when they're going to respond, and actually follow up when they're going to do that. In terms of getting the information, try to get the information as early as possible. This is not me pointing any blame, but letting them know, okay, you want to approach our committee, you want to approach our board, we need this information as soon as possible. And maybe and by getting the information as soon as possible, we might be able to provide them with questions that hopefully we can get answers for in the first meeting. So setting the expectation, encouraging them to be transparent, and saying that presenters being disingenuous is not a healthy way to approach the committee. And we want to be cordial and work with them, but they need to be as transparent and as collegial as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So we can start to set expectations. And it doesn't even have to be long. Just we look forward to working with you. These are some things that can help when you approach the committee. These are things that we recommend, and how we recommend that you do it. And almost creating decorum for the presenter. so they know what to expect or what we expect when they are talking to us, when they're negotiating.
Understandable. What I'm gonna take from this, if there's no more questions, is I'm gonna attempt to draft, not a letter of recommendation, but just a letter that's galvanizing this conversation we're having here. It'll be there for draft. Everyone could put their input to it in preparation for when they return, so that at least we're not starting from alpha. You know, this is alpha. So we have some information. It looks like you have the Microsoft online. Yes, we do. Yes, you do. There's a lot of information on the link. It's just the way it's distributed, but you can access the information. But I'm not sure if they submitted the application formally yet. If they did, they're not in the process where they had the certified notification to the office, so we're not in the time frame. I'm just answering questions that's in the chat. Maybe we should draft a letter just to make sure that we get all of these ideas together for this particular topic, because tomorrow I could get another email and it could be another one, and and the conversation could sway, but we'd like to just continue to address this topic as we progress through the year. Would everybody be okay with that? Me doing a draft, and then everyone adding their input like we've done in the past? Yes. All right.
That's fine.
As usual, our typical means is through the chat. That's where we get the most feedback back and forth, but we'll utilize the email method as well. And once we have something substantial in the chat, we'll distribute it for the next meeting for everybody to review. We'll then gain more input on it, adjustments, changes, grammatical errors, etc. And we'll just keep it in our war chest for when this applicant returns.
Sounds good.
So we have to move. Moving on to new business. It's our new year. New business. Ms. James?
The land use committee to know that there is a possibility, I don't know what is going to materialize or not, of a ULO being presented to us to consider building a 7-story building in an R5 in the area. As you know, that the rezoning committee has been working diligently to have some sort of urban planning in our community. And is an integral part of every city and should be of every community, and we have not had urban plan. So for those of you who do periodically alerts, just keep your eye open for any application for there was a meeting held with a developer over the summer, a private undisclosed meeting with a developer to see whether certain members of the board could be convinced to support it. So I just encourage you to keep your eyes open for it, because it may or may not. I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Wait. New business, right? New business. And Mr. Dawes, is your hand raised for new business or is it for something else? Ms. Bennett, new bit. Oh, sorry. Okay. Miss Bennett, new business? No. Mr. Lewis?
Hand down.
Not new business. Are we going back to anything about the Shirley Chisholm Center?
I do need to reach out to McKissick. I did put inside of the report that they did do the groundbreaking, which in excavation, which really the first step of like the art portion of it. I'm not going to get into too many details. Should have had a lot of community outreach based off of the art exhibit that I attended. But as far as construction and stuff like that, they haven't reached out formally. So
I have been pushing. There is actually a new representative for the construction part of it, and the workforce development is still Maurice Durant, but Randall Jean Jacks is no longer the lead person in terms of the compliance from McKissick for the contractual project part. There's a new young lady by the name of Brittany Rivera, and I've spoken to her. There's supposed to be a Meet the Primes meeting in October. It's also supposed to be a work development meeting, and in this work development meeting, I told Maurice Durant that there needs to be more community activity. There needs to be more community activity in terms of giving people opportunities to get the 40-hour SST. Okay, I explained to her that we're not just looking at one group of people, whether it's young people or not, but there's older generation of people that have been around doing handiwork in construction outside of the unionized trades that should get access to the opportunity, because this is a PLA, which means it's a project labor agreement that should involve the community. So I gave them a proposal to provide the SST at no cost to people in the community. I am going to speak to Ms. Frazier about putting a list together so that we could maximize that and push McKissick and Lend-Lease to be proactive in terms of pushing the bare minimal, which is the 40-hour SST, and actually putting some skin in the game in terms of tangible monetary money towards that proposal, and then also going to the different politicians to push it. I am looking in particular to at least do maybe 4 of these classes, which could go up to about 40 people, so it's 160 people maybe over the next year, because the project is not in it hasn't really started ramping up in terms of actual construction. You just have the excavation, but by the month end or so forth, maybe by into next year January, I wanted us to be prepared and have a preemptive strike of people, at least one cohort of those people have that 40-hour SST in order to be a part of that. And also pushing that the contractors that they do give opportunities to come from the community to hire the people, because the guys who are coming outside, there's no real obligation to really hire anybody in the community. So that's the update for the old business for Shirley Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any other new business? Ms. Martinez, your hand is raised.
Yes, I assume people may be aware of the Interborough Express project that will be moving steaming ahead at the state level, that will affect the overpasses in this area, creating a light rail system. I'm assuming that most likely going down the road, those projects will be put before both the Transportation and the Land Use Committee. And I think we need to use those as opportunities to leverage, again, additional spaces that we need, community facility space and all of that, since it's going to impact our area in terms of how we live here and train access. So I just want people to just start paying attention to that, because there are, there are workshops going on about it, but most people in the community have no idea, and it's going to affect where we live. So there's going to be a stop right here at Utica, and I assume basically where the car washes are thereabouts. So we need to actually pay more attention. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for putting that in the link. Yes. So I don't know if we may need to actually have like a subcommittee devoted to that, because that's a large project where we should be, again, extracting things from the state where we can to get what we need here, especially as we will be directly impacted.
It's MTA, right?
Yes, it is.
And we have a transportation chair, so selfishly, we'll see if we could reach out to a representative to at least formally give us the information that we're asking for, possibly tell us when the project starts, and then we could probably build a subcommittee around that. Would that be all right?
We need to be negotiating again for what we need in, because they're going to have to build stations. So can those stations also accommodate other things that we need as well? And while they're sorting out, what budget items go where, every community should be negotiating and advocating for what they know they need and extracting that for the yeses that are going to be required, and figuring out what impact there could be for eminent domain on housing and all of that in the vicinity.
Sorry, I was just looking over trying to see if there was a start time, but we probably shouldn't even, that shouldn't even matter. We should just get to the, get our ducks in a row. I agree.
It's in review process right now. According to the website from the MTA, there's a formal environmental review process for 2023 and beyond. So it's something to look at, but it's not something that's coming right now, because they're doing.
The deals
all
are
these
getting made
review
and cut now, so this is why we need to be on the ground talking about what we need.
But,
We can't wait till the deal is, done. So.
but when was that? I'm trying to see the public hearings. Have they had multiple? Or did
There
they-
have been meetings. There was one in last September that I never heard about. But the fact is, I was on a call that I only heard about because my mom happened to see it mentioned on the news. And so the discussions already are happening. We need to be, again, proactive about what we want and need, and have our state level, especially elected officials, putting us in positions to negotiate for, and be in the rooms to discuss what we need, especially as we're representing underserved communities.
See if we can reach out to the MTA and see if we can get somebody to just talk to us about it. And then, yeah, I agree. I don't disagree. It's really a community board thing in totality, because every other committee might have an affected stake in the ultimate outcome of whatever comes there. So, sure. I think we should do it. I think we will do it. All right. Ms. Martinez, Hazel Martinez.
I just want to say in regards to that IBX, it seems like from what I've been reading that all of our elected officials are already on board. And I think it's going to affect our communities in the rezoning area.
Curious to know how that would, with the eminent domain and the zoning and the stops and the places that even is traveling through, because the rail system that's there now, the trains, the timelines are so far and few between that it's hardly noticeable. But I don't know what that'll look like as a light railway, and really defining what that means,
They've been interviewing people in our in other communities on this rail line, but no one over here.
Really? That's what you've been seeing on the news? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes, in Queens, they've been interviewing people and all of that. Meanwhile, this line is supposed to connect to like the Brooklyn, the terminal. All the way to Queens. Yep. So we would have like 2 to 3 station stops in our area, but they're not talking to the people who live here. And that it can definitely, this might be an opportunity to even tie in some of the infrastructure projects that we know we need and had no funding for. That's like a $5.5 billion project. So this may be an opportunity to leverage some of those additional needs as well. And maybe since Osney is chairing transportation, this is a good project for a joint effort between both committees to work together on that this year.
I think so.
Hello, this is Yolanda Aline. From my understanding of going to the MTA board meetings, they already have it in mind that our community has no value. And they have talked, and they've been talking to folks in Queens, and they don't have any plans to talking to anybody in East Flatbush. Because they already have their plans already geared, and they already said they're looking to get the fundings, and they had X amount of $1 million or whatever it is already in the works.
Okay.
I'm always at the MTA executive board meeting.
Make sure that an inquiry gets sent out about it. We'll have to have somebody come in front of us, I think. Not that it's gonna stop us from doing what we need to do, but if they haven't been speaking, I think that somebody from that organization should come in front of us and tell us why. You know? And I kind
They have not. They have been talking to them folks in Queens since last year.
yeah, and I want to know in what context they're talking to the people in Queens also, you know?
Well, I
Miss,
can tell you from what I heard at the meeting, they've been talking to them about the domain stuff, and they've been talking to them how they plan to do XYZ. All the planning, they have been talking to them folks in Queens.
So Miss Arlene, now that I'm the new transportation chair, I'll have to get your contact information to see how I could get access to that meeting. To be able to kind of hear what's transpiring to have a better plan of action in terms of what we would need to do for our specific community.
And I can tell you, all our state senator, assembly person, and even our Miss Lewis, I have sent them letters about certain things that happened at the MTA board meeting, and everybody has been mute.
Okay, so Miss, I'll get your information and I'll be in contact with you to kind of see how we could work together and maybe get some of the letters that you sent and re-forward and maybe have another straightforward conversation. All right?
Okay. All right.
Ms. James.
Yeah, I very seldom get angry. And it normally takes me a long time. And I looked at the clock a while ago. I'm like, okay, 9:47. I finally got angry. But I hope the conversation that just transpired a while ago is an eye-opener to the new board members and the new committee members. Our role here is to advocate for the community. Okay, we are not here to be nice to people who are not part of this community. We're just hearing how the disdain for our community, where they're planning to put subways, where they're currying favor and trying to butter other people in Queens, because this is not going anywhere in Queens at all if the people in Queens oppose it. So I'm employing the new board members and the new committee members who may think that we are here to be nice and to try. We are here to make sure that we are not disregarded and that we count and we matter. And sometimes you have to speak very sternly. Sometimes it's very difficult to welcome this conversation, but that's what we're called to have. Because over the years, I can tell you, we are being slighted, we are being dismissed, we are being disregarded. When people come to us and speak nicely, it does not mean they have any respect for us. So I hope this conversation resonates and we realize, especially what's going to happen in the next couple of months, that we need to be vigilant and defend our community. Thank you very much.
Ms. James, and then Ms. Martinez in closing.
Okay, I agree with Ms. James because we have been disrespected even by the people here tonight. They tore down that building, designed and planned something, and this is not the first one. The other one was the auto shop. They did everything they want to do. Wendy's, they do what they want to do, and then they come to us for the variance after the fact. And we need to take note of that because people need to know that they need to respect our community as well. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Anybody call for adjournment?
Yolanda,
I'm sorry. Do I have a second?
I second, Marguerite.
Meeting has been properly moved and adjourned. Everyone have a good night. We'll be in contact. Welcome to the new year.
Extraction. That's the game.
Extraction.
What are we getting?
Extraction. Seems violent. Seems like
It's not violent. It's business. This is business. So.
Oh, maybe that should be the term. It's not violence, it's just business. I like that better.
Hello, Mr. Kawami.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Smith.
Do you have my attendance? I had came in a little bit after the meeting had started.
Yeah, and I'll have the attendance log. I do need to update the list, but I do have you locked in.
Do you have me,
Perfect,
Mr.
thank you.
Kwame?
Miss Aline?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Do you also have me and Hudson? Because I'm sorry, I was also late.
Yeah, I have you.
All
I
right,
have you.
thank you.
But I do need to update it. And, unfortunately, first meeting of the year, the timing of it, everything like that. We want to get an accurate list, especially for voting. I got a list with 60 names on it. I don't think that's true. So I have to get it wound down and see what we're actually. But everybody have a good night.
Okay, good
You
night.
too. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.